How's everybody doing?
Great, Coach.
That was, nice Greenville weather out there today. You get everything. You get 95 degrees and 100% humidity, and you get a hurricane. So it's just, what comes with living in Eastern North Carolina. So finished off, the last kind of regular practice of the week. For the week tomorrow, we're going to have a kind of a game simulation, take them through a lot of stuff as it relates to game day and pregame warm-ups and, work a lot of our situations tomorrow. So it is practice, but it's more of a mental thing than a full-scale, full-on practice. So we're getting towards the end of our preparations as far as preseason camp goes, and next week's game week. So the guys' spirits are high about that.
Okay, we'll open it up to questions for Coach Houston now.
Coach, how do you feel like the new guys in particular, have adapted to that game week style thus far and really kind of focusing on one particular opponent?
Well, I mean, it's I think everybody's done pretty good. With so many new young guys, there's lots of firsts this week. I mean, it's we worked late game situations again at the end of practice today, and a couple of them they get confused on exactly what is this? What's this again? And you go over it and over and over, and you just keep going over it again and again and again. There is no replacement for experience. Game experience means so much. I told them the story of last year. We're at NC State to open the field. We had went over pregame warm-up. We'd done like 4 days. We went through pregame warm-up, and we get out there, right before kickoff, and we get ready to go pass scale, offense versus defense, and Holton just has no clue what we're doing. What are we doing, Coach? And it's like a complete catastrophe. Just is chaos out there. Because game day, you get the nerves, you get the little bit of pressure, you get a little bit of that build up, and if it's your first time, you never know, what's going to happen. And so we're trying to cover as much of that stuff as many times as we can to try to get those guys that experience before next week.
Coach, I know you've got a bevy of quality running backs to go to. I'm a little curious, as you enter the first game here, how important is it going to be for you to try to get your big running back, Darius Pinnix, at 6 feet, 225, 230, untracked early amongst this grouping of running backs that you've got heading into the UCF game?
Well, Darius has had a great preseason, a better preseason than what he had last year. He's in better shape, had a great attitude, very, very team-oriented attitude. He's doing a lot of stuff for us in a lot of different places. And so we expect him to be a big part of the game plan for game one. Really, really pleased with the competition, the depth in that running back room, and I look forward to seeing those guys in live action.
Hey, Coach, you'd mentioned before, talking about wanting to have parents of the players attend and kind of what's gone on there. Mac Brown's talked about at UNC today. NC State had a group of parents actually petition the governor. Is that something that you guys might try to, keep pushing for as we're still a week out, is to get, maybe some more family members, and how important would that be for your guys?
I mean, you're going to have parents miss the first game of their son's career next Saturday. I mean, I'm sure my wife would be the exact same way. I mean, she goes to everything that the kids have, and I just think that's the real tragedy in it all. And it's hard. John Gilbert and I talked a good bit. Using the 50 tickets for the upperclassmen parents. It's hard for me when one player's parents can be there and another player's parents can't, and I just think that's just a tragedy. And so anything that we can do to get all of our families in the stands for our players next week, I would be all for. I just think that's important for these kids. I think it's important for mom and dad. I talked to one family last weekend that, they are hours and hours away, and, they have not seen their son since, back at the beginning of July. And it's tough. I mean, it's those freshman parents especially. It's tough. So will anything change between now and next week? I don't know. I mean, that's up to somebody besides me.
Coach, one of my go ahead, Joe.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Ronnie. Have you heard any more about what game day might look like?
We've got a pretty good idea. It's pregame warm-up will be, kind of the same kind of deal. We'll have we'll be able to dress a few more kids at home than we will be able to on the road. We're going to test all players, all 118, 3 times next week. And so we anticipate all 118 minus the one current positive that we have. We expect all of them to be, on the sideline in some capacity for the game next week. Now, we'll have to have some distancing measures in place. We'll have to have some masks in place for those that aren't playing in the game. But that's kind of what will be with our roster. The sideline will be spread out a little bit more than usual. Obviously, the coaching staff will be in masks. There's so many protocols on how we're going to travel to and from. There'll be a 20-foot barrier around the players inside the bubble. Everybody will, do the rapid return test Friday morning. We won't meet until everything's back, and we're assured that as best as we can that everybody's negative, within our roster before we do any of our meetings and walkthroughs on Friday. There'll be temperature checks and screenings on game day morning, and that'll have to happen early. 8 o'clock pregame meal with a 12 o'clock kickoff. So it's going to be a lot of new things. There's so many more, and I can't even, probably think of right now. But there's going to be stuff with the stadium. We got to talk to UCF about that. As far as crowd noise and music and things like that, I would think that they would want that as well for the atmosphere. But there's lots of things we're going to have to do this year in order to play. But everybody's committed to doing those things because everybody wants to play.
One of my many sports theories, Coach, is every team needs that fastball, or there's a point in a game where you have to go and lean on your guys, your best players. Just looking at the stats, the last few scrimmage, that Holton Ahlers to C.J. Johnson connection, just stat-wise, seems like C.J. is making big plays. Is that thing kind of moving along as you hope? I mean, and those two guys just continuing their careers kind of together. How has C.J. kind of been?
Well, I think C.J.'s been great. I think that our offensive skill kids in general have had a really solid preseason camp. I'm excited to see them play. I know everybody is. It's you don't know until you get out there and play, but and I think that everybody knows the potential that we have on that side of the ball, and so hopefully we can see that come together next week. And I think if those guys are playing, at their level of potential and gelling and playing together well. I think we've got a chance to be pretty good on that side of the football.
Hey, Coach. Sorry, Mark. Coach Kirkpatrick talked about Fernando Fry some this week at dinner. Could you discuss that a little bit, and then also how's that offensive line rounding up?
Fernando, you look at him. He's a guy when I got here that hadn't played much at all, and really needed to be developed some more. And that kid, so proud of him just in the way he's developed his body since I got here. He has, solidified himself as a guy that you can depend on. He's a tough, hard-nosed guy. You can get everything that he's got every single snap. He makes so many of our calls, on our front. He's kind of the general of the offensive line right there in the middle, and just really made a nice transition to that center position. So, he's a guy I'm really proud of him. He's really come a long way, and a very solid player for us.
Coach, when you have a day like you had today of big-time rain practice, can you address how much of a team-building kind of thing that's one of the biggest things you kind of get out of a rain day? It seems like camaraderie amongst the team and practices that they remember. Can you talk about how it went?
We're all out there getting soaked together, no doubt. So, it's the deal where you never know. You may have a game like that. You may have a game in this kind of weather, and certainly you got to be able to function in it. Some players do well. Some players struggle. For the most part, older players, confident players, pretty tough-minded players, they usually do pretty well in the rain. Guys that, everything always has to be perfect and nothing can be out of line, and any kind of bump in the road just derails them. Those guys usually struggle in that kind of weather. So I think those days are important. There's some pieces, towards the end of practice, the balls were getting pretty slick. There's some pieces where you'd like to have, the ability on a day like today to not be in that kind of weather. But I think that, we got more positive done today than negative.
Coach, we talked a lot about Garcia and some about Stubblefield. Can you update us on maybe Taiji Hudson and how he's progressing?
Taiji missed a little bit of time during camp and came back late last week. And so he's a little bit behind in the quarterback room. So we found him, he was with us on the scout team at the beginning of the week on the offensive scout team. So we stuck him out at wide receiver. Now, we all had talked about this possibility, but holy cow. I mean, that kid, you talk about showing your athleticism and playmaking ability. So we've made the transition for this year. He's going to play wide receiver for us, be heavily involved in special teams. And you look out there, he's taller than most of our tight ends other than Zach Bird. He's more athletic than, just about anybody on the team, and, has that big frame, big hands, speed. So he's going to be a lot of fun to watch when he gets kind of everything figured out on that side of the ball. I had a talk with him, just, great attitude, coach, whatever you think's best for me. I just want to, do my part and would love to get on the field and play. That kind of attitude. If they all had that attitude, then things would be a whole lot smoother. But, we'll probably look at him at quarterback again in the future. But I think for this fall, I told Coach Kirkpatrick, if he could we'd either move him to wide receiver and use him on offense, or if he's going to be on the defensive field, he's going to be in the secondary playing defense. So we've chosen wide receiver for this year.
Coach, have you had much chance to work on different situations, special situations, maybe into the half, into the game, Hail Mary type situations?
Yeah, we actually did that today. We've worked late game situations a lot for the past 2 weeks. Showed them the field goal situation at the end of the half last year at UCF, where the guys did a great job executing a hurry field goal situation with no timeouts, getting the kick off. Jake nailed the kick. So we simulated that again today. And then we worked our play before last of the game and then last play of the game, both those situations today. So it's one we'll continue working that, throughout next week, because, when you come into that situation, whether it's an onside kick, hands team, Big Ben or victory defense or whatever, when you come down to that last play, it's a pretty freaking important play. Biggest play of the game. It's winning and losing. So there's a lot on the line in those situations.
Going a little more on the Taiji situation, you look at Josiah Hatfield, have that quarterback experience, and even CJ a little bit too. When you have receivers who have at least that ability, obviously, to open up the double pass, trick play, but just their versatility you can count on, but can kind of mix in every now and then, I guess.
Sure. We had a kid at JMU that's a high school quarterback, and he was the best trick play kid we had, and I think all those guys have that same ability as well. The other thing about him, you take a guy like Taiji, he's used to being a leader. He's very intelligent, very football smart, and has that savviness about him, that any quarterback is, usually going to have. And so, that makes for a great position player, because, he's done, a lot of different things and seen a lot of different things, and usually understands the offense very well.
Any other questions for Coach Houston this afternoon?
Just got one. Saw the NCAA this week went ahead and approved Election Day off for all student athletes. What does that mean to your program, and are you encouraging the kids to go out and vote?
Well, this summer we registered every one of our players to vote. And so all of our players are registered to vote either here in Pitt County or, absentee ballot back home. It's something that, we feel strongly about. We're going to ensure that we have Election Day as an off day so that all of our coaches and players can, participate and, their right as an American citizen and vote in the local and national elections. So I think that's important for all of us.
Any other questions? Okay. Thanks, Coach Houston.
Thanks a lot. See you guys next week.
Okay, Coach.